And welcome, everyone. This is episode 11 of the WoDCast, brought to you by worldofdarknessnews.net. This we have, as we talked about last week, where we had a wonderful guest, Justin Achille. And if you haven't checked out that episode, definitely do. Very, very insightful, very, very interesting. And we have here starting our roundtable part of the WoDCast. I am here with some. You might recognize some of these names if you're following the Boston Neo Knights Chronicle. Also here on WoD News, we have Draconis, Joker, Noah, and Wizen.
Wizen is fine.
Wezen. You know what? Wezen, just like that show, Grimm. Wezen.
Oh yeah, Wisen. Oh, is that how you say it?
Wezen. I thought it was Wez. Wasn't it Wezen? Was it Wizen or Wezen? They said it. I don't know. Anyway, that just made me think of that. Talk
about getting
we're already getting fucking sidetracked down here. So let's just give everyone a quick introduction. So we'll just go down the line here. Drac, tell those listeners briefly about your gaming background.
Sure. Yeah. Okay. I'm Draconis, Drac for short. Gaming background. Lots and lots of Skyrim, some Morrowind, some Oblivion, the Bethesda games, and like any other single player RPG. Real into those.
Awesome. Joker.
Joker from the Neo Knights Chronicle. Play Virgil. I've been a player of the World of Darkness games for a while now. Since the 20th anniversary games came out, and
the
I'm
best
excited
version
for
ever.
Bloodlines 2. Yeah, sure, definitely. And I'm excited for Bloodlines 2 like everyone else.
Awesome. Noah, our resident Malkavian.
Oh, hello everyone. I am Noah, even though that's not my name, but don't tell anyone because they're gonna be heartbroken. Anyways, my history with Batman Masquerade. I've been a fan since around the time I found out about a game, which was somewhere between 2000 2007. I've been curious. I've been playing Bloodlines on and off for a few years. I never actually managed to finish the game, but I never managed to play with anyone, play a full game of the tabletop with anyone because shenanigans in real life. I'm paying attention whenever anything new would come up with the game, and whichever game is trying to come out as a playable online game, and that's me.
Awesome. And Wezen.
Wissenschaft here. No, I don't speak German. I do not. I just have a nerdy reason for that name. Anyway, I was first introduced to Vampire the Masquerade through the Redemption video game. And then I learned of the pen and paper. And I've loved the system ever since. And I bought Bloodlines the day it came out. I've been here harping this game, hyping it up since it came out. So I am very excited for Bloodlines 2.
Nice.
As for other games I mostly play RPGs. So stuff like The Witcher 3 or sometimes open world action games like Horizon Zero Dawn.
Yes.
Nice.
I'm a big Super Robot Wars fan too. So
Nice. And as for anyone who hasn't already heard my spiel before, Harlequin, aka Peter, I've been into pen and paper role-playing games since the early 80s, PC gaming about almost as long as that. I've played a few dozen different types of pen and paper games, as well as pretty much all the big computer role-playing games as well. And I run worldofdarknessnews.net with my co-administrator, Donovan. who will probably hopefully be here next week with us. So there we have it. So first topic, I want to talk about the clan reveals. Now, maybe I'm wrong, and you guys, we'll start with Drac and then go from there. But I don't think any of us were totally shocked. I'll say the only one I was unsure of is whether they were going to do Gangrel or Bruja, because let's be honest, they're both punchy, tanky types. You don't need both. I was on the fence. I thought it would be Bruja because, let's be honest, it would require more development time to do the Gangrel properly with the animalism and, the change forming. Then you got to do a whole nother model and more animations and all that craziness. So I thought that just the punchy, glowing fists would be obviously just on a development level just a lot easier to implement. So I knew it was going to be one of those two. So once they said Bruja, I was like, okay, I know the rest of these clans, and it's obvious. And it was. Every clan that I picked was the ones, and the ones that I didn't pick weren't in the game. So let's start off with this. Drac, was the list of the 5 clans, Bruja, Toreador, Tremere, Ventru, and Malk, was anything a shock to you or a surprise to you?
Not really. I mean, I was really hoping, but I didn't think I was going to get it, so alas.
Oh, you cut out. What did you say that you were going to get?
Oh, I was really hoping for Nosferatu. I didn't expect it, but I was hoping real hard.
There was a lot of people on the official Discord. All you people who were saying Malk are wrong, it's got to be Nos, and they were wishing so hard, and I feel for them. I really, really do. But there is no way. And I said this 100 times, and everyone told me I was full of BS, that I was like, if you look at all the surveys and the polls of Bloodlines 1, the Tremere and Malk were always fighting for as the most popular played clan, and Nosferatu was always on the bottom. They were almost consistently the least played and least favorite clan to play. So you can't tell me that they're spending their limited resources on the least played clan. Now, is it possible they'll come out as a DLC or after release? Absolutely. I think it's certainly a decent possibility. But for release, it just didn't make no sense to me whatsoever.
Not only that, but in the interview with the head writer that came out during the reveal.
Yeah,
for Malkavians, he stated that the first thing they discussed when they were talking about what clans to include was that we got to have Malkavians in, or there's going to be a riot.
And that is not a lie. That is not a lie. That's a hashtag fact right there. Joker, what do you think about that?
Well, none of the clan choices were really surprising to me. I mean,
can't hear you.
Oh, sorry. Can you hear me?
Yep. Go ahead.
Okay. None of the clan choices were really surprising to me. I think the only one that I was kind of on the fence about was Nosferatu or Malkavian.
Yeah, we can.
Oh well.
Yeah, and I mean, I really thought it would have been Nosferatu. I mean, I was kind of 50-50. I was leaning more towards Nosferatu. But it's not really surprising, really.
Yeah, I didn't think so either. Wezen, what was your thoughts about that? Was anything surprising you? What the clans they chose?
It makes what they chose makes sense because they are fitting the classic archetypes of vampire that they have in Masquerade and plus also some of the class fighting that they have. So Bruja fighting the man, the Ventru are the man, the La Sombra are the Lestat interview of the vampire style vampires, and then the only thing I would be surprised because Nosferatu is also a classic. So I was one of those people thinking, even though I like Malkavians more, that the Nosferatu would be put in just so they could have more stealth gameplay. But they went with Malkavians, which was shocking. And we also learned that was the first one they picked to include. So it's like, wow.
Yeah, right. I mean, I thought
Also,
if
the
they
only shock with them is that they gave them Auspex instead of Auspicate, so they're going to be a little bit harder because I think, the hardest clan to play. Not that Bloodlines one is that hard, but they're the hardest clan to play because their abilities aren't that. It doesn't make them tough. Not like Adventure with their fortitude and presence, which makes them super tank.
Right. Well, go ahead, Joker. What were you gonna say?
Well, I was thinking that, it was kind of surprising that they didn't put Obfuscate in the game. Like, I thought if they put Nosferatu or Malkavian in the game, they're going to have Obfuscate. But
Right.
apparently not.
Yeah, I thought that was kind of odd too. I was thinking, is Mal going to have Dementation and Obfuscate? Is that like because I thought they were going to use the Malks as the stealth class, their stealth archetype that they were going for. I was, but apparently not. Apparently, we are not getting a dedicated stealth clan, at least until, allegedly the Nosferatu are released post.
Well, to be honest,
post
and
DLC.
I've done it. To be honest, I've done it myself in Bloodlines. Is that you could play stealth without Obfuscate. I've done it with any character that doesn't have it, and just
absolutely.
be stealthy anyway. And one of the powers, Thin Blood powers, the Mist one, Nebulation, one of its powers lets you. It says that it helps a little bit with making you stealthy.
Oh, yeah.
So,
I mean,
I think that's going to be a key power for Malkavian because with their Obfuscate, you want to be able to spot the enemy and get the drop on them because you're going to be rather fragile.
yeah, if you want to play a stealth character, you're probably going to have to pick Nebulation.
Yeah, Nebulation. At least until we get some sort of post-release content. I'd say that's probably a good estimation.
Well, that also just depends on how open the world is, because you could also use something like the one that lets you glide as a Thin Blood and just like avoid combat using.
Oh,
your
yeah, you could
aspects
take
to
the
tell
high
where people
path.
are. Yeah.
That's what
The
my
combat-
Tremere
I mean,
will
Nebulation.
do.
Nebulation is more like the assassination discipline because it lets you choke people out.
Yeah.
But
Very quickly, something kind of since we're on this topic, and it's not something I put on here, but we can definitely quickly talk about it. Very interesting. Do you think, with how the gameplay is, which they've already stated, that you keep your Thin Blood power, whichever one you chose of the three, and then you get your 2 clan disciplines when you fully get turned into a full-fledged vampire? So you have one from your bloodline, and then Thin Blood, and then 2 from your clan. Do you feel this is going to be a unique situation for your player character? Or do you think they've retconned all the clans to only have 2 disciplines and then, they get... Because the interesting thing is if you're just this like special snowflake that gets, goes from Thin Blood to full-fledged vampire, then I can see kind of tweaking the rules where you don't get your default clan 3. They for story reasons they've kind of mixed it up. But I think it's going to be very telling about the story if this is a set thing now in the universe where you only get 2 clans of 2 discipline, and this third one comes from another source.
I think this is just for this game because we also don't know how our Thin Blood becomes a full vampire. We are assuming it's the way in the pen and paper that it's through diablerie, but it could be a ritual, and that could explain why we keep our the discipline situation could be explained away by that.
So you're saying you think all the other kindred in the game are going to have their base 3 clan disciplines. We're a oddball out.
I don't think they're going to have full set because I think the vampires we fight will have set powers, so they might not have their full 3. Like, it wouldn't make sense to give someone presence as an enemy because it doesn't feel good to be stunned by an enemy constantly, but certainly celerity they might have. Because you fight even in Bloodlines 1 a vampire with celerity, a Toreador with celerity, that plague cult.
So you think that they're going to play fast and loose with what the disciplines and clans?
It's going to be very video gamey, just to make sure the encounters are fun. So,
Yeah, because I mean, they're doing a lot of video gamey stuff. Because Thin Bloods in V5 don't even have disciplines.
Right. That's true.
actually,
What-
their main power, like Thin Blood Alchemy, isn't even their main power. That's a perk, a merit that you have to buy. Their main power is who they feed on. Depending on their type of blood, the type of residence, they gain disciplines for free, but they lose them on the next feeding, which gets replaced by whatever else power. So their powers are very fluid. Right.
Did you want to add something, Drac, before we move on?
Yeah, all I wanted to say was that I know in V5 when you're starting a base vampire and not a thin blood, you do start with 2 disciplines. Character creation.
Just 2
really?
disciplines.
Not 3.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, so that
Because
that
it's
might
set in
play into
V5.
it. Yeah, in V5,
Oh.
which they're sticking to.
That's interesting.
So, like,
well,
other
they're
vampires still
well.
have-
Let's be honest. They're mostly sticking to V5. I mean, they have
Ish.
V5-ish. Yeah, that's fair.
As
That's
much as
fair.
possible, they're conforming to it. So it could
Yeah.
be like a nod to it, or it could also be older kindred do have the 3rd discipline and you don't.
Right.
Just quick, the V5 character creation is actually very set in stone what you do, because the disciplines, you have 2 dots in one discipline, 1 dot in another, and a bonus from your predator type. And then there's your skills. You have a set amount of how you distribute them. That's set. You have 3 options, and that's it. So it's less open than it was before. But I guess they felt it was good for new characters, for new players getting into the game to simplify it. Because character creation is probably one of the hardest aspects for someone new to a role-playing game.
Yeah, sorry to interrupt. Well, I also know that Lumi's mentioned that it makes things a little more fair in their experience, where sometimes if someone puts their stats a certain way in V20, they might be a few entire levels ahead of someone else in terms of experience.
Because if you want to make a
Oh, yeah,
combat
I mean-
monster, you could easily dump your dots into the physicals and to physical disciplines, like as a Bruja, and
Yeah.
just
Yeah, I
wreck
mean-
other people.
Just like I put all my dots into my discipline, Protean, and you have like 3 discipline. Well, we have 2. I mean, in V20 you definitely can spread yourself thin, or focus on one thing and be super good at it.
More just that it's easier to level up things that you're weak in V20 in terms of experience cost. So if you put all of your character creation into like one skill, you're gaining more in terms of what experience it might cost you to get that later.
It's basically cheaper at character creation to get high cost, higher level abilities and skills than it
Yeah.
is to gain it later on in play. And that's
Yeah.
not really the same in V5 because the cost is the same.
No, that's part of the benefit.
All right. Let's move on to, speaking of Malkavians, let's move on to the clan of Malkov. The head writer said in one of his most recent interviews, that is Brian Misota, said that Malk gameplay, they're not going for comedy this round or fish milk kind of dialogue. They are going for a darker, more paranoid direction with the Malkavian dialogue. And it's going to be a, quote, very different experience, end quote, from Bloodlines 1. Let's start with Joker. What's your thoughts on this?
My thoughts on Malkavians, I mean, I think it makes sense, right? That they're not just making them fish milky. That's actually kind of the reason why I didn't play a Malk in Bloodlines 1. I wasn't really a fan of that. But yeah, I mean, dark, I just hope they don't make them too edgy, right? Hope they keep some comedy, because that's, I mean, part of the fun. That's why people like Malkavians, and that's why they were the most popular. I can definitely understand that.
Noah, what's your thoughts on this?
Well, I find what was happening? What exactly was the question?
What's your thoughts on the Malkavians? They're going not for so much comedy, more darker, paranoid dialogue.
I think it's interesting, and I like their approach. I had nothing against the way they did Malkavians in Bloodlines 1. In fact, I often would hear from people of the game that I should wait before I play the Malkavian. I should try everything else because Malkavians, there's no turning back.
Yeah,
You get pretty much everything you would get from other clans. You get an insight on every bit of the story, and when if you're playing a story of the character in your head, how you're reacting to, you could come to the conclusion of just how messed up everything really is that you're seeing happen before you, that the characters don't see it. So I'm very curious to see how they're gonna play comedy that is playing out before you.
I think they're still going to have
Just the-
some comedy in it because one of the pre-orders is to dress up like Jeanette. So
Yeah, and they also have like the stop sign. They said, I think they said that they are trying to keep the Bloodlines 1 spirit of Malkavians.
Yeah.
what it is the dialogue is all your dialogue's going to change. So that's going to be interesting.
To the point of playing.
Yeah, I'm kinda
gonna have.
I'm kind of hoping
dialogue
that
change.
clans have, like, all clans have specific dialogue. Like, you have a special Bruja choice where you just fucking punch someone through a wall or something, and you have something like that for every clan.
They did it. It would if they did that. It would make sense why they lowered the number of clans to 5. If they wanted to make sure they have a unique experience for each one, because a lot of the clans felt very samey, and that's why I liked the Malkavians and Bloodlines 1 because it was very different than the others. Where the others like Toyota and Bruja they would feel very samey.
What's your thoughts, Drac?
On the Malk or
Yeah, the milk.
I don't have anything against it. I'm just curious to see. I really want all of the clans to feel distinct personally, and if like the Malkavians have that sort of spooky edge, I think that would be awesome. I didn't actually play Malk in the original game, partly because of the whole over the top thing, but also just because I'm dyslexic and the dialogue. Wow, you can't read it. So it'd be nice if that's not a thing.
Sometimes that dialogue is like really obscure. It's like, what is she saying?
Yeah, or like even like the dominate stuff. I don't know.
As the old saying goes, the reign of ages, special relations.
But yeah, I'm excited about it. I think it could be really, really cool, honestly.
Yeah, and I feel pretty good about Brian. I mean, he did it the first time. I'm sure he's learned lessons. He now understands what works, what doesn't work, and
I wonder if Brian wrote Jeanette, because whoever wrote Jeanette had a lot of fun with using the way she wrote. The way she spoke was so weird.
Yeah, well, right, but you know what? The whole, I gotta say, and I find this very interesting, and this is something that, again, that was brought up by Brian, is they don't want to treat the Malk's mental illness with like just fun, wacky dialogue, and they want to be a little bit more respectful, which I appreciate and I can understand. I mean, there are some people in the community that is crying about, oh my God, they're going all social justice on us. It's gonna suck.
Actually, I think the whole people who are going think, oh, this is going to be a PC ruined game.
Yeah.
The fact that the Malks are included, I think you're going to make people calm down about that. One thing that Jeanette, even though she was doing the sexy slut routine, she came off as really disturbing from the way she talked too. So there was an element of danger with her as well.
Well, you had two very different takes on the Malkavian. You had the player character, which was wacky fish milk most of the time. character. But then you had Jeanette and Therese, who were very deep, very complex characters. And if you actually went the route of, talking to, Jeanette and Therese when they were quote unquote fighting each other, Jeanette and Therese actually become very sympathetic characters because of the abuse they endured when they were children, and then you understand why they are, the way they are, is because of that, and it all comes full circle, and it totally makes sense. And I thought that was very maturely handled. I thought that the way it was written was very properly handled, and I think if they use those kind of concepts on the player character dialogue this time around, I think it, I mean, yeah, you can have your occasionally, a couch talks to you or whatever, or you can have a little bit of fun like that. But
actually, a lot of people, I think the stop sign could be a little too fishmouthy, but an example people really liked was when you talk to the TV news anchor, because that's actually really disturbing and very paranoid.
If they do exactly, and if they do something like that, mix in the dark paranoid dialogue with events like that to break it up, I think they'll hit it out of the park.
Yeah.
Yeah, I found the TV talking to you kind of scary.
Yeah.
Indeed. It definitely. First time you play the Malk, you're like, what the fuck? Why is this news anchor talking to me directly? It was very disturbing.
Like, you did it, and all that.
It can be done. To see if your character is affected. Because they said you also hear voices and stuff. How they play that here in Bloodlines really don't do anything. They're random, but if the voices had impact, or you've seen in some games where they played around with your character having like a sanity meter, like in some of the Call of Cthulhu games, having a sanity meter, losing their sanity, having moments where they lost their insanity. Did something like that with your Malk character. That would be very interesting to see stuff that isn't actually there and hallucinate, and that would mess with you.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh,
like
absolutely.
the insight in Bloodborne.
I wonder how they're gonna deal with humanity. Actually, that reminds me, if they're gonna do straight like Bloodlines 1, no good evil, or if they're gonna do more of the V5. You have
tenets, you have convictions, and there's chronicle tenets too. And so if you're a vampire who feeds on other vampires, it might be more acceptable for you to kill while you're feeding, because of how difficult it is of your feeding method, than if you were another type of vampire trying to be more humane. So
I don't know.
You can go. Finish your thought.
I was going to say, I don't know how in scope it would be, because it seems like it would be a lot of work, but it would certainly play really, really interestingly. Like, it would feel like a really big narrative change if you got to pick even from, like, say, 5 different possible tenants.
I would go with bringing it back to a point with the Malkavians, is that it's not actually clear now in V5 whether the mental illness is a bane of the Malkavians, or their skewed perceptions and their belief being important, that as they're supposed to be the prophets, the oracles. So whether they just leads them to embrace people who are mentally ill, which came first.
And you know what I found a little, just to finish up here, and you guys can have the last word on this topic, but speaking of Malkavians, what I found I didn't quite get my head around is during the clan reveal, it said, their weakness is they have a hard time focusing. And I'm speaking about the Malkavian clan weakness, and I'm just like, okay, that may work in a pen and paper. How does that exactly work in a computer video game? I don't understand exactly how that's going to be my quote-unquote clan weakness.
I think it's a bit dual because part of it is that the way you talk, so the player, just like their character, is not quite sure what's coming out of their mouth, so they don't know what they're saying, and also the hearing the voices, playing distractions. I do think that's going to play a bigger role. You might hallucinate during the game as an Malkavian.
Yeah.
If I had to
Yeah.
guess, I'd say that instead of being like, oh, you're distracted and you missed something, it's literally you might have text playing, like you might have something blaring at the screen when something really important's happening, or your character's focus, like where the video camera focuses might shift or something like that, where you have literally no control over it.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
So you kinda,
that'd be
you
interesting.
kind of miss out on
Yeah.
something.
I have a bit of a perspective on this because one of the few times when I played the game happened when I got to my in downtown LA. Happened in the room. Every time I would come back to it, something would happen.
Oh yeah, the glitch.
Yeah, the glitch. The
Yeah.
posters would be floating in midair.
Mhm.
The fish tank would be empty. A stack of chairs where the computer would be.
Mhm.
Like that, where you're trying to discern reality from fiction, and you're not sure if
Yeah.
you put the chairs there or if the chairs were never there to begin with.
That's kind of how I imagine they'll probably do it.
I do think it's a legit weakness, just the dialogue, because I do think that Malkavians are still, for most people, better as a second playthrough, because it's very easy not to know what the fuck you're saying.
Yeah.
I mean, it depends on how much you know about the game as a Malkavian, or like what's hinted to you. Because if you don't actually know what's real and what's not, it might be more fun to play a Malkavian and then play another clan, sort of
Yeah.
connecting the dots and being like, oh, this is the real story.
Yeah, I think Malkavians being seers, I think it would be interesting.
Well, no, that's right. We do know because from the interview that Brian himself, the head writer, is the one who wrote the Malkavian dialogue. So all the weird lines that we got, he did a great job with that.
Yeah. Also, he mentioned that in this game, they had to sort of wait on the Malkavian dialogue because they were trying to have it so that Malkavian was actually getting hints of things that would happen in the future.
That was in Bloodlines. He said that they had to write it last because you have to have hints of and the dialogue about future events. So if you played the game again, you'd be like, "Oh, I know what they're referencing," because she would make comments like when she's talking to the Prophet Thin Blood that you meet.
Yeah.
In Santa Monica, she'll make mentions like, "Oh, that's the Doc Farther," and the guy he's standing, who's sitting in front of him. And if you've seen the ending cutscene to the game, you know what that's referring to.
Yeah.
And it's the only way you would know what they're talking about.
And Brian Misota did say that they're leaving the Malkavian dialogue till the very end because of that very reason. They, they want the game to be finished,
to write.
and then he can include these little hints, these little foreshadowing, and it'll make sense. So the last thing let's talk about real quickly, they said that we are going to see our first extended gameplay on the 10th of this month, which is just before E3. Let's start with I don't know. Sure. Why is it? Why?
Surprising.
Yes. What? Basically, let's do a very simple question so we can wrap this up. Just tell us what are you expecting? Not what you want, but what do you actually expect them to deliver? Because I will say there is some unconfirmed reports right now, so we could take this as rumor for now. I want to stress that a community representative said that there is still some uncertainty of exactly what they're going to show the 10th, which if that rumor is true, that kind of makes me a little concerned because the 10th is coming pretty quick, and shouldn't they have this already nailed down? So anyway, what's your thoughts?
Actually, I'll just say, as someone who does programming myself, that's always the case. They're never
Oh,
going
yeah.
to be, and any game company, any developers for games are never going to be sure what they're going to be able to show during a deadline to show a demo. So that's just the nature of the business. So I'm not surprised by that at all. And what we already know is that they showed from the earlier articles, they've showed a demo. So I'm pretty sure they've just taken that same demo of the first like 30 minutes of the game, polished it up some, and then they're going to show us. That way is because, especially when they're so early, they're still pre-alpha. There's so much that's still being changed. So they don't want to give misconceptions. I give an example like the mess that was Final Fantasy 15's development and stuff they showed early that's not in the game when it finally came out. So this is the problem. It's why they limit it to like media, but you're not allowed to see it directly. So the fact that they're showing directly, I think, is proof that stuff's going to be in the final game, and they're confident of that.
Joker, what's your thoughts?
I'm very excited for the gameplay reveal. I think I agree. I think they're just going to show what they showed the media before, but just maybe a little prettier now. Maybe I'm thinking they'll just show how you can play the game with different thin blood powers. Like they'll just show one scenario and how you can use nebulation and how you can use Chiropter and all that.
And the articles that came out when this game was announced was that what was shown in a demo was when, the intro to it, the whole trial of your mass embrace, the place being bombed, and then some exploration from there during the early part of the game. And we get to meet Dale, which apparently is the person who explains what being a thin blood is like to us. He takes the role, I guess, of Smiling Jack in the first game.
Yeah. Noah, what's your thoughts? What are you expecting on the 10th?
Given the discussion we've had so far, I think I can describe my expectations in one picture.
You're gonna have to describe the picture out loud, though.
You're gonna have to describe the picture. We can't show it in the podcast.
That's a lot of fish.
That's a lot.
Oh, jeez. He posted a picture in chat of a pile of fish. Oh my goodness.
I can't actually see that. It's very
Drac, what's your thoughts?
I think that they're definitely going to use the demo that they've already got to build on it. I don't think they're going to show the exact same stuff they showed the media, though. Both because it'll make the first 30 minutes of gameplay real boring, and it's a pretty big commitment in terms of what sort of tone they're going to stick with for the first 30 minutes of the game.
Okay.
I mean, they might, but I don't think they will.
As an alternative to that, they could just put a little combat section for us.
Yeah, I don't know that it'll be a very long section, but I think whatever they do show has to either be in the game or be referenced in the game, the final version.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I totally agree. All right, guys. Well, thanks everyone for their input. Thanks for everyone their time. Drac, Joker, Noah, and Lyson. If you want to hear previous podcasts here, check out worldofdarkness.news. And we will be back next week to discuss the latest news that happens. So thank you all, and we will catch you next time.